Good evening, and thank you for attending. My name is Leslie Kane, and I'll be the moderator for this evening's debate. Before we begin, please silence all phones and electronic devices. And additionally, please refrain from any interruptions to the debate, as it is being recorded for on-demand viewing and post-captioning services. The Citizen Clean Elections Commission is the sponsor for this evening's event. The Clean Elections Act is a campaign finance reform and public education measure initiated by Arizona citizens and passed by voters in 1998. The system provides clean funding for qualified participating candidates who agree to abide by the Clean Elections Act and rules. These include contribution and spending limits, foregoing special interest money, and participating in commission debates. We encourage audience questions, so please utilize the note card given to you when you entered the room and hold it up. Our volunteers will pick up the cards and deliver them to me. If you need additional cards, just raise your hand. If you have a question for a specific candidate, please include the candidate's name on the note card. It will be considered during the second half of the debate. We do screen questions for clarity to eliminate duplications, speeches, or personal attacks on candidates. This debate is scheduled for up to 90 minutes, so we may not get to all audience questions, but we will do our best. Tonight's debate includes 1-minute opening statements, and the first half of the debate begins with 2 minutes to each candidate to answer the same question. After all candidates have responded to the question, the first responding candidate will be given an additional 30 seconds. We will rotate which candidate responds first. The second half will allow a different question per candidate with 1 minute to answer, and then we will have 1-minute closing statements. We ask that you remain polite to all of the candidates and give them a fair and uninterrupted hearing, no matter how strongly you may agree or disagree with anything being said. Tonight's participants are Mr. Joe Bisaccia, Democratic Clean Elections candidate for state representative for District 12. Ms. Lindsay Robinson, Democratic candidate, Clean Elections candidate for state representative as well. Mr. David Rothans, Democratic Clean Elections candidate for state representative, District 12. And Mr. Blake Saka, Republican candidate for state representative, District 12. The order in which the candidates will speak has been determined by alphabetical order by last name, starting with the Senate. Of course, there are no Senate candidates this evening, for opening comments, and we'll progress from that starting point. So the order for the second half will be determined by reverse alphabetical order by last name as well. Mr. Bisaccia, will you please start the opening remarks?
Sure, it'd be my pleasure. Thanks everybody for being here tonight, and the Clean Elections Commission, DJ, Lindsay, and Blake for participating. My name is Joe Bisaccia, and I'm a candidate here in LD 12 for State House, and I'd like to tell you why. So by profession, I'm a public school teacher. I began my career in journalism and sales, but I found my true passion in education and in teaching kids how things work. So after a few years, I became a middle school teacher here in Gilbert, and in the areas of applied technology and robotics. So as a resident of Gilbert and a teacher, I believe I sit at the intersection of tomorrow, which are youth and technology. And that's why I'm running, particularly to solve a few issues we have here at the state level, to fix our school funding crisis, to fix our jobs crisis, to fix our infrastructure crisis, and to reform our state tax code. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Robinson.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you to the Clean Elections Commission for hosting this debate, our moderator, to everyone who's here, and all those who are watching online. As for my background, I have 2 bachelor's degrees, one in political science and the other in philosophy. I have a master's degree in secondary education and a doctorate in law. I am a former dreamer, a teacher, and an attorney who worked in nonprofit. I believe that my personal life experience and educational background has worked together to prepare me to serve in this capacity. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rothans?
My name is DJ Rothans. I'm a 57-year resident of the state of Arizona, retired union steam fitter. I've worked in 10 states. I've seen a lot of different things, and I think What needs to be done in Arizona is fix our education system, and the best way to do that is going to be to put charter schools on the same level of restriction as the public-run public school. That's one of the biggest drains of our budget, and it's keep going the wrong way, and it's going, okay, 30 seconds. I'll quit right there. It's going the wrong way. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Saka.
Good evening, and thank you all for being here tonight. I'd also like to extend my thanks to the Clean Elections Commission and all of you for braving our weather this evening. I am an experienced business executive. I worked for Intel for 28 years. I'm a professional problem solver. I have a degree in chemical engineering, and I studied systems thinking at MIT, and I'm an educator. I have a master's degree in education, and I teach chemistry and engineering for Grand Canyon University. I have an open and collaborative work style, and I know that in order to lead, I first have to listen, build trust, and demonstrate integrity. I believe passionately in the future of Arizona, and especially in the need to invest responsibly in high-quality education and high-paying jobs and excellent roads and highways. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we'll begin the portion of the debate where each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer the same question. The first question is for Ms. Robinson. Ms. Robinson, what will you do to make sure there is more accountability and transparency for charter schools which receive public funds but aren't held to the same reasonable standards of accountability as other agencies receiving public funds?
Thank you. Given the opportunity, one of the first things that I would like to do regarding this issue is to have the charter schools put on their website their budget. I have been talking to Democrats and Republicans and independents alike, and one of the things that I hear from all of them is that they want to see transparency, not just in our traditional public schools, but in our charter schools. And I believe that we can't have two different sets of standards for traditional public school and another for charter schools. And so ultimately, I believe both institutions need to be held to the same standard. And if we have their budget, which is already on paper, so it's not that difficult to just post it online for the members of the community to see, then there will not be any question as to what is going on behind the scenes. And ultimately, we can hold them accountable if we think they are spending their funds inappropriately. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rothans?
My thinking is separate but equal doesn't work. We tried that in the 50s. We know it doesn't work. I think that in order for our public school system to function, the charter schools that are public schools privately run and public schools that are publicly run need to be on the same set of rules. There is no point in having a $5,000 or more contract have to have 2 bids in this school, and you could pay your brother-in-law $100,000 to change a light bulb in this school. I think that of the 87 schools that have gone bankrupt since 2010, charter schools, all of them overspent their budget and they were unaccounted for it. The big school in the West Valley that went down last year, they got $10 million or $2 million 2 months before they went under, had no accountability for the money. This is wrong. You have the fox watching the hen house. One of our representatives said that once he's paid that money, it's public or it's private funds. He doesn't have to account for it. That's wrong. Everyone needs to account for every cent that comes out of the public coffer. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Saka?
Thank you very much. I would describe 2 specific actions that I would like to take. And the first one comes with a little story. And that is, during my candidacy, I have met with all of the district superintendents within Legislative District 12 and with the leaders of most of the charter schools. And somewhere in that hour conversation, every one of them have told me we get less money than everybody else because of the funding formula. So the first and foremost thing that I would like to do is to simplify and equalize the funding formula so that we have a level playing field for all of the students in public schools across the state of Arizona. The second one is informed by my background as an engineer, and I learned very early on that the reason that you do experiments is to learn from them. And so in the last 20 years in Arizona, we have performed an experiment with charter schools. And I'm immensely frustrated by the fact that it seems like we are hesitant to learn from that experiment. I don't believe it's either pro-charter school or anti-charter school to say what's gone well in the last 20 years and we should proliferate to district schools, and what hasn't gone well and needs to be changed and fixed so that we can benefit from those in the future. So those are two specific actions that I would like to take. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bisaccia?
Thank you. So recently, the Washington Post called Arizona's charter school system the most corrupt in the entire nation. And if you look at some reporting by the Grand Canyon Institute, they found that since 1994, 42% of charter schools have actually failed and gone out of business in the state of Arizona. So I think that tells you that we have a serious problem on our hands, and we need some real reform to the system. I think we should have very, very strict conflict of interest laws on the books that are vigorously enforced. We have far too many legislators that are currently serving right now that are voting on legislation that enriches them, and they own specific charter schools or have a vested financial interest in that. That should be illegal. I think charter schools should not get more money per pupil than traditional public schools do. I think that's wrong, and that should not be part of our system at all. I think it should be mandated by law that charter schools have to offer their contracts to the lowest bid job, just like traditional public schools do as well. And those are a few of the things that I think we've really got to get taken care of, because this is a system that's run amok. As legislators, our primary job is to be guardians of the taxpayer, and I don't think anybody could look at our charter school system right now and say that we have been guardians of the taxpayer in the state level. This is a huge problem, and we've got to get it taken care of.
Thank you. Ms. Robinson, your 30-second response?
We need a charter board accountability committee that's going to hold our charter schools accountable. And when fraud is found to have occurred, they need to be held accountable in the court of law. We need to be able to know what has happened to the taxpayer dollars that has gone into those schools when they're opening up and then closing within 100 days. We need to hold them accountable, and we need to create laws that will do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rothans,
We have a,
since Governor, next question is, since Governor Ducey's 20 by 2020 plan does not have a dedicated funding source, what are your feelings about closing special interest corporate loopholes to help increase public ed funding?
the state budget is about $10 billion. The state of Arizona gives $13.9 billion in tax breaks to billionaires, such as if you buy an airplane in Arizona, you don't have to pay sales taxes. If you land that airplane at a municipal airport, there's a landing fee, but if your plane is registered in Arizona, you only have to pay 20% of that. You also do not have to pay tax on the fuel that you buy. Another corporate loophole is your country club membership is tax deductible. These are tax breaks that are not helping at all. If in fact we took 10% of that $13.9 billion and put it back into education in 1 year, we could put more money in education than our very creative figuring governor claims he did in 3. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Saka, same question?
Thank you. In terms of looking for additional funding for schools, the first action that I would like to take is informed by my participation on the Gilbert School Board. And so as a school board member, what I learned is that the state typically gives money to schools in buckets. This money can be used for textbooks. This money can be used for computers. This money can be used for buildings. This money can be used for salaries. So I would like, the school boards don't spend money that way. Needs don't happen that way. So the first thing I want to do is remove those restrictions in the money that goes to the school boards. That way, they can be more effective with spending the money that we have. That doesn't require us to have more money, but it enables the school boards to be more effective in spending the money that we do give them. I also recognize the need for additional investment in education. I worked in the Gilbert community to pass the bond and override that's currently in place, and I've supported organizations in other districts to do that. And I supported the extension of Proposition 301, which my opponents in the Republican primary, all three voted against in this most recent legislative session. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bisaccia.
Yeah, repeatedly we've heard this governor talk that it's possible to somehow boost education spending without actually generating any new revenue. Unfortunately, I don't think he would actually be able to pass math at Cooley Middle School. Time and time again, we have seen that the math simply does not add up. It's impossible to do that. We have seen our state budget, which is about $8 billion, be roughly compared to that of Wyoming, which has about 530,000 people that live in the state. And we are a state of over 7 million people now in the state of Arizona. The numbers just don't add up. We've got to find a way to recoup the $750 million that are still missing from the budget just since 2009 that have been cut out of the system. And, simply siphoning some money out of the Department of Environmental Quality is simply not going to go far enough by any means. And that means we have to, look at real comprehensive tax reform. Our state budget, as I said, is about $8 billion. We give away $13.4 billion a year just in corporate sales tax loopholes alone. There's one company in particular that if you go to a hardware store and go to buy a pipe, a 2-inch pipe has a tax on it. A 4-inch pipe has a tax on it. But if you go to buy a 3-inch pipe, there's no sales tax on that, particularly because Southwest Gas uses that specific pipe when they're laying pipes down in the state. Our state tax code is riddled with all sorts of loopholes like that. We've got to reverse the trend of cut, and that's why I'm supporting the Invest in Education Act and why we've got to reform our state tax code as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Robinson?
Would you mind repeating the question?
Since Governor Ducey's 20 by 2020 plan does not have a dedicated funding source, what are your feelings about closing special interest corporate loopholes to help increase public ed funding?
Thank you. I certainly support closing corporate loopholes, but in addition to that, I think we need to take a look at the entire tax code. We've been basically giving giveaways to corporations and begging them to come out to come out to Arizona, to run their business. And at the end, we don't really get much for it. Certain companies, certain taxes actually make sense, and it helps with stimulating and growing the economy. Others do not. And I think we need to look at the entire code to make sure that we're not just giving away money that's going to ultimately hurt our community. Education and the economy work hand in hand. If we don't properly fund education, then our economy begins to crumble. It takes time, but eventually it happens, and I think we're starting to see the signs and the symptoms now. Ultimately, I believe in the Invest in Ed initiative. I carried petitions for it, and I look forward to voting in favor of it. And if it does not pass for some reason, I think that we need to look for other revenue sources, not just in taxes, but also in looking at money that we're putting in the ESA vouchers that's already not working. I think we need to reconsider that, and because as of right now, the ESAs, they don't fully deliver on the promises that they were intended to promise on. Average education is about $17,000. Meanwhile, the ESAs only fund about $5,000, and so the parents are not able to actually benefit from the ESAs, and so we may need to take a look at the entire ESA voucher system altogether. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rovans, same question? Or your 30-second response?
Would you repeat it again, please?
Absolutely.
I got really wrapped up in what she was saying.
No problem. Since Governor Ducey's 20 by 2020 plan does not have a dedicated funding source, what are your feelings about closing special interest corporate loopholes to help increase public ed funding?
This is my 30-second response.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I couldn't help but agree with Lindsay about the voucher thing. We know it doesn't work. We need to take that completely off the table. You look at the amount of money that's put out and the amount of money that, the amount of good we're getting for it, the dollar for dollar, it's not working. It needs to go. It's just simply, that's it.
Thank you. The next question is for Mr. Saka. What, if anything, would you do to help rid Arizona of dark money?
So I think you first have to start with a question about what is dark money. And I'll share an example of a question that I got last night at a House meeting. And somebody asked me, they said, well, your opponents have taken money from PACs and specific interest groups. Isn't that a bad thing? And I said, well, no, not necessarily. We have many interest groups in the state of Arizona, from education to everything else, and those groups do provide funding to candidates. So the fact that someone contributes to a candidate, or a candidate takes money from a special interest group or a political action committee, is not in and of itself bad. Where it gets bad is two things. Either if the candidate is inordinately influenced by that contribution, and that really is under the control of the candidate, and I have high ethic and integrity expectations of myself. And the second part is when individuals in the public cannot figure out where that money is coming from. So I do support making sure that anybody can figure out where that money is coming from in terms of campaign contributions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bisaccia, same question.
Thank you. So I believe that Citizens United was one of the handful of worst decisions in the history of the United States Supreme Court. My campaign has been fully supportive of the Outlaw Dirty Money constitutional amendment. I helped circulate petitions for that, and I'm excited that that is looking like it's going to get on the ballot in November. I'm supportive of it and urging everybody to vote yes in favor of it, because the public has a right to know. If some billionaire from out of state is spending tens of thousands or tens of millions of dollars in a campaign election cycle, we should have a right to know who is doing that and for what reason. The public should have a right to know. It's that simple. And beyond that, I think we should look to other countries and how they run elections. I don't think it should be legal for you to be able to accept campaign contributions from a PAC or a super PAC. I do not believe that that is the case. Other countries don't run their system that way, and I don't believe it's very effective in this country. I think that at a minimum, that should be illegal, and we should look to possibly moving to completely publicly financed campaigns at a national level.
Thank you. Ms. Robinson?
As clean elections candidates, we have to provide our campaign financing information to everyone. And so I don't understand why we need to have a different standards for other candidates. It doesn't make any sense to me. Ultimately, what I think is, as human beings, I mean, as just an honest person, and I think I'm about as honest as they come, if someone gives me $50,000, it would be very hard for me to not consider their position when I'm making a decision regarding a bill, and that's just human nature. And I don't see, why it would be such a difficult thing for us to demand transparency in our candidates when it comes to who's funding their campaigns. We know that financing is a major part of a campaign. For the most part, some candidates elect to run traditionally because, honestly, they know that it ultimately comes down to who has the money to win the campaign. And so for us to act as though who's financing our campaigns is not going to have an impact on how we vote down at the legislature, I think is just a blatant hypocrisy and lie. We're lying to ourselves and we're lying to the voters. I carried petitions for dark money because I believe in the initiative, and I hope that the initiative passes, and I hope that I have the opportunity to vote for it if it does. And I think that we absolutely need to hold our candidates accountable, and we need to see transparency when they vote so we can understand if there are any ulterior motives behind the things that they are voting for. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question, Mr. Rothans?
Thank you. The simple solution to this problem is impossible, but if in fact there was a string tied to the dollar bill and was given to the candidate, you'd know where it came from. That's an oversimplification of the problem, but it certainly would be a solution that when the Koch brothers gave $10.7 million to whatever, it would be a direct trail back to them. And what do they want? Well, they want to destroy public education. That is their main goal. And there are times I think our legislature is just right in line with that. They continually chop away at the public-run public school and slant towards the public private-run school. And if in fact we had, like I say, a trail to who gave the money, there would have to be, at least we would know why this person voted, other than as conscience said, and it was because they got $6 million over here. And I don't think those people would get reelected. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Saka, your 30-second response?
Thank you. As a traditional candidate, funding candidate, I also have to comply with all of the election rules and make sure all of my candidate contributions are declared. My lovely wife, who's sitting in the back as my treasurer, does a wonderful job of making sure that I do that. And I do not believe that simply the act of taking money from an organization implies an unethical relationship. That act of being ethical or not is owned by the candidate. But I do absolutely support people's right and responsibility to know where the money is coming from.
Thank you. Next question. Mr. Bisaccia, please tell us your thoughts on term limits for the Arizona legislature, and should jumping back and forth between chambers be allowed?
Ooh, that's a great question. Honestly speaking, I don't believe that term limits are effective. I mean, term limits were instituted, it was actually founded by a lot of outside groups from outside of the state in order to basically handcuff the legislature from being able to be effective. Now, the way our system works, where legislators serve for 8 years in one chamber and flip back and forth, obviously that's undermining the spirit of the law, and I think we can all at this table agree to that. However, I think if you look traditionally through the history of the United States at basically our state level and at the federal level, you can't find a single piece of legislation that was, co-sponsored or sponsored by a backbencher in his first or her first term. There isn't a single piece of legislation. There's not a single example of that. You need a long history and a deep understanding of how these institutions work to actually be able to push an agenda once you get there. And, for me personally, I don't think term limits are effective. I understand the argument in favor of them, but personally, I do not believe that they serve their intended purpose. And largely, they're put in place to, I believe, handcuff government from being able to function in its proper capacity.
Thank you. Ms. Robinson.
I understand that the words career politician has a dirty connotation. But I think true public servants who has the skill and the ability to serve in that capacity is an asset to our community. With that said, the idea that our current legislators in our district, and they've done this in other districts as well, but in terms of our districts, would gerrymander back and forth the way that they do, it's just unconscionable to me. People continue to vote for them, though. So if voters are going to vote for them, then they're basically telling them that this is acceptable. How do we tell people that something's not acceptable? We don't vote for them. We don't vote for their ideas, their policies. We don't support them. And so ultimately, to answer your question, I am absolutely in favor of term limits because of the fact that politicians tend to find a way to find a loophole to violate the laws. And that's a big problem in every industry in our nation, not just in politics. I think a true public servant will find a way to serve without having to violate the spirit of the law. There are other areas as a politician that you can benefit your community without having to gerrymander back and forth between the House and the Senate. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question, Mr. Rothans.
Yes, ma'am. I think the term limits could be effective if, in fact, you served 8 years and then you had to be out for 2 years, one election cycle. You could not be an elected official. I think in that time, it'd be like you could see from the other side of the coin, you know, whether you would be a lobbyist or an aide to a senator or a representative. You could see how frustrating it is for people to talk to you and you not get any response from them. And then maybe if you would put the shoe on the other foot when you got back in there, you would have a better understanding of why. And maybe it wouldn't take so long, like Joe said, no first term person ever gets anything done. If you knew and all the people around you knew that you had 4 years or 4 terms to get this done, it might not take so much dragging of your feet. And like there has been said, our people have jumped back from the House to the Senate in District 12. Their thinking has made us 50th in teacher pay and 46th in education. And the whole idea behind term limits was to get fresh thinking, and that is not fresh thinking. It's the same thing over and over again. That one definition of stupidity is to do the same thing over and over and over again and expect a different result. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Saka.
Thank you. In an ideal situation, the ballot box would function as term limits. Everybody would vote, everybody would be aware of the positions of the candidates, and if we have candidates that aren't supported by the majority of folks in a legislative district, they wouldn't get returned. Unfortunately, that isn't practically the way our system has worked over the last many years. So I reluctantly accept term limits as the second best alternative to having the system function ideally. I do believe that the current intent of the law was that an individual can serve 8 years. And so I don't believe it is acceptable to jump back and forth to avoid what was the clear intent of the people of Arizona when they passed an amendment to our Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bisaccia, your 30-second response?
Thank you. Hearkening to what Blake said, I think the real underlying issue at hand, not necessarily just that we have these term limits and people are violating the spirit of the law at the state level here, but I think we need to fix our corruption problem. If we fix our corruption problem here at the state level, and I don't believe that the term limit issue would be as much of a problem as it currently is, because we have just way too many people in the legislature that view public service as a means to self-enrichment and a means to career advancement, and that's not what being a public servant is all about.
Thank you. Next question. Ms. Robinson, please share your position on a woman's right to choose and protecting the rights of members of the LGBTQ community.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I am a Christian. And I would like to see women have less abortions. I believe in the value and the sanctity of life. That doesn't mean that I have the right to take away a woman's right to choose. Am I going to stand beside her, financially support her? Am I going to hold her hand through the tough times, help her heal during the difficult times in her life or through the emotional turmoil that having an unwanted baby will cause? Am I gonna be there for her? No. So why do I get to determine whether or not she can have a baby or not? That decision is between her and her doctor, and if she believes in God, her creator. That is not something that as a legislator, we should be legislating on. But we do need to respect Roe versus Wade, and I believe in the woman's right to choose. As far as the LGBT community, they have been marginalized, abused, disrespected, put down. I mean, they have been treated pretty badly in our community. And I believe that all people have value and matter in the eyes of the Creator. We need laws that make sure that everyone is treated with equality. And for me, that means I support the LGBTQ community having the right to get married. I support families, and I support the sanctity of life and people. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rothan, same question?
Yeah, thank you. I'm never going to have an abortion. I've never been involved in one. I never will be. It's not my right to tell someone else what they can do with their body. Everyone says that they're pro-life. No, I think those people are pro-birth because, like Lindsay said, they're not going to be there for the whole time. If a woman has 5 children and is having a hard time feeding them, and she finds herself pregnant again, and she determines, are these 6 children going to have left to eat, or should I take care of the 5 I already have? That's a choice that she's going to have to live with the rest of her life. I was raised Catholic. I've never been involved in an abortion. I never will be. But it's not my place or my right, in my opinion, to tell someone else what they can or can't do with their body. And that trends into the gay community as well. Like Lindsay said, every human being deserves value. They deserve their own space. What they do in their space is up to them. As long as they're not hurting anyone else, they can do whatever they want. And that's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Saka.
Thank you. My faith and my religion and my family are important to me. And my religion teaches me and has informed me that all life is precious. And as a result of that, I am pro-life. I support the rights of all individuals, including LGBT individuals, to make choices. Every person is important. Every person is valuable. Every person deserves the rights and responsibilities and membership of our country, our society, and our world. And so if we need legislation to make sure that those rights are available to every individual, then I support that legislation. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bisaccia?
Thank you. I am pro-choice. I support Roe versus Wade, and I am proud to have earned an endorsement from Planned Parenthood Advocates of Arizona. In terms of the LGBTQ community, I also support recognizing them as a protected class here in Arizona. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Robinson, your 30-second response?
Thank you. I support equality for the LGBT community in housing, in the workforce, in education, and in marriage rights, in all the other areas that we would want rights for our families. When it comes to abortion, I believe that if we want to see a reduction in abortion, then we need to increase funding for families who are financially struggling. We can't have it both ways. We can't want to take away, I'm out of time, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rothans, next question. What are the top 3 issues you believe that the Arizona legislature should make a priority?
My first one would be education. There's absolutely no doubt about that. If we don't have a proper educated workforce, the middle class is never going to strive. And if the middle class doesn't strive, we're not going to be able to afford the goods and services that are produced locally and those things are going to go away. I think the second most important thing that we need to work with is equality. This whole we have one set of rules for these people and one set of rules for those. That's got to go away. People are people. That's the way it is. And I do firmly believe that our environment. I think in Gilbert we have way too much surface water. And I'm guilty. I live just off a golf course, and they run water at the gate. But we're in a desert, and we need to realize that if we're going to function 100 years from now, we're going to have to conserve some water today. And I think that's the top three things: education, equality, and environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Saka.
Thank you. My answers are greatly informed by the many, many doors that I've knocked on and asking the question of you, what is the most important issue that you think that we face? And so the answers that I consistently get and the priorities that I would like to take to the state legislature are, first, education. Sustainable, long-term funding for education such that we can do an excellent job in the state of Arizona educating all of our children across the entire state. The second one is transportation. Many of you may or may not know that when you pay gasoline tax, it goes into something called the Highway User Fund that's there for highway maintenance. Our current legislators have made a habit of sweeping that money to use it elsewhere in the budget. That's wrong. It needs to stop. And we need to have money to be able to maintain our roads and highways. A part of this district is in Queen Creek. And if you lived in Queen Creek, you would be very frustrated with the fact that Highway 24 doesn't exist yet. And the arterial streets don't exist yet. But all the traffic from Santan Valley comes right through the middle of Queen Creek. So transportation is the second important issue for me. And the third one is healthcare, and specifically access to mental health care. So I believe we have a significant crisis in this country with people who don't have access to mental health care and need it, and we need to make changes to that availability. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bisaccia?
Thank you. So these are the three biggest issues that I believe our legislature needs to handle, and in the very near immediate future. One, fixing our school funding crisis. We still have $750 million that's missing out of the system. We've got to get that back. And I actually long-term support a constitutional amendment that would actually remove the legislature and the governor outside of, remove them from this process long-term, because they have shown that the partisanship of this issue is just too extreme for us to really have a long-term sustainable solution with them continuing to fund the system. So I think we should totally pass this constitutional amendment that automatically adjusts for inflation and comes up with an entirely new funding formula. I would also like to see us fix our crumbling infrastructure, because our success tomorrow depends on how we deal with our infrastructure needs today. And as Blake said, we have constantly been siphoning money out of the coffers of the Highway Trust Fund here at the state level for far too long, and we have got to stop that, and we've got to take care of our infrastructure. The American Society of Civil Engineers recently gave graded Arizona's infrastructure as a C, and they gave our roads particularly a D+. So that's unacceptable. And in terms of the last issue that I think that the legislature needs to handle, and that's obviously reforming our state tax code. We're giving away so much money in state corporate tax loopholes and corporate sales tax loopholes as well. And we're missing billions of dollars a year out of this, and we've got to figure out a way to generate more revenue.
Thank you. Ms. Robinson?
Thank you. I believe that the top three or most important issues facing us is education, the economy, equality, and the environment. Education and the economy, as I said earlier, work in tandem. They work hand in hand together. And so I believe we have to tackle education and economy together at the same time. But most importantly, I would say education, because as a product of public education and a former dreamer, I believe that education is a great equalizer. Immigrants don't risk life and limb to come here just for job opportunities. They do so because they recognize that education, that their child receiving proper education will make the difference and allow them to be able to use their full God-given potential. A well-educated workforce will encourage business, will encourage corporations to come to our state, as well as provide jobs for our economy, and will stimulate our economy. And so in doing those things, we have to also be mindful of being equitable to those who are here and making sure that everyone has the same opportunities. And then we ultimately have to protect the environment because it is our home. And so if we destroy the environment, what good is the economy? What good is an education? And so I know that they're looking at, a Space Force out on another planet. But right now, as far as we know, this is the only home that we have, and we have to protect it. And so I think we need to get back to fully funding public education, not at 2008 or 2006 levels, but we need to fully fund it now at 2018 levels for the year 2018. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rothans, your 30-second response?
Of all the things that are said, I agree to 90% of them, but my comment about the environment and water, I left out, and I meant to get in there, is the 1 liter bottle of water that everyone carries. We throw away enough of them to go to the moon and back in 1 year 7 times. And like Lindsay said, what good is the economy if we destroy the environment? Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, candidates, if you'd like to take a sip of water, we will be transitioning to the second part of the debate, where each candidate will receive a separate question with 1 minute to respond. So remember, you may still submit questions via the note cards and direct them to specific candidates. The first question is for Mr. Saka. Mr. Saka, what role should a candidate's personal religious beliefs play in the way he or she votes?
I think implied in there is that the way you vote on legislation, I suppose, not legislation, not voting for candidates. I don't think personal religion should play any role in the way anyone chooses the candidates that they vote for in election, or in the issues, the way in which they vote on issues that come before them at the state legislature. So I don't think that it should have any impact.
Thank you. And next question, Mr. Rothans. Should you be elected in November, how will you present your district issues that your voters consider very important to them?
When and if. As I go door to door and talk to people and hand out my literature and talk to them, the main things that I'm coming across is a lot of people are into education and charter schools. Some people even speak about private prisons, roads. I would think that education, my point, maybe the roads and private prisons are something that just keep coming up more and more. Oh, I didn't put that in my top 3, but that's something that I'm hearing from the people that I'm talking to.
Thank you. Ms. Robinson, what was your position on Red for Ed and their walkout and receiving their 20% increases?
Again, as a product of the public education, I strongly support Red for Ed. I supported their decision to walk out. I supported their decision to walk in. I think that they were forced to have to walk out because the legislature wasn't listening to them. Their backs were against the wall, and they ultimately had no choice but to walk out in order to get the attention of the legislatures, to get them to do something that was going to benefit our community and our teachers. They didn't do this for a salary increase only. They did this to benefit the entire public education system and our children, and we should be proud and we should applaud them and we should support them, and I certainly support the Red for Ed movement and our teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bisaccia, how will you keep your district informed of pending discussions on legislation affecting your district and all of Arizona?
Sure, great question. So I'll just continue to do what I've been doing. I've knocked over 5,000 doors in district. I've talked to Democrats, independents, and Republicans alike, and I've listened. I've done a lot less talking than I have listened, and I've learned in life that that is usually the best way to conduct yourself. So I'm going to listen to folks. I'm going to make myself available. My door will always be open, and I'm going to, I understand that I'm accountable to all the voters in this district, not just the ones that are going to vote for me. So that means that there's probably going to be, if I'm elected, a lot of people that didn't vote for me. And I recognize that I have to do my best to represent those folks too, because that's what being a public servant's all about. And my door's always going to be open. I'm going to keep going around and canvassing my district, and I'll even hold some town halls too, make myself available as possible.
Thank you. Mr. Saka, how would you bring jobs to LD12?
Thank you. Great question. So I think the most important thing that we can do to bring jobs to LD12 is to have a robust education system and a well-trained, well-qualified workforce available to those employers that are looking to relocate in Gilbert. I'm strongly supportive of career and technical education and providing multiple pathways for students to be able to be ready to join that workforce and to provide those excellent employees. I think that is the most important thing that we can do to support economic development here in Gilbert and Queen Creek.
Thank you. Mr. Rothans, how will you work towards mitigating homelessness?
In order to bring people off the street, we have to have a place to bring them off the street. And there's a man working in Queen Creek called Woodlife, and he is developing a deal for veterans and for troubled teens, and he's taking devoted his property, and they're in the process of building it. His name is David Waddell. He has brought my attention to the fact that Queen Creek is number 11 in teen suicide in the nation. I was not aware of that. And he is working towards having a place for homeless people, veterans, and troubled teens. And I'm going to continue to support him to the best of my ability. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Robinson, how important do you feel it is to vote your conscience versus voting down party lines?
Thank you. I think it's very important to vote your conscience, but I think you also have to be mindful of the role that you play as a legislature. When voters elect you in the role of a legislator, they do so that you are their voice, not a voice for yourself, but a voice for the people. And so anytime that I have the opportunity to do the will of the people who elect me, if I am in fact elected, that's what I'm going to do. I will not compromise things that I believe that are non-negotiables, though I will not compromise my integrity to do it. But I will make sure that in every opportunity, every chance I get, that I vote based on what the people want. Ultimately, I think that, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bisaccia, how long have you been a teacher and why did you become a teacher?
Great question. So this is going to be my second year as a teacher now. I teach at Cooley Middle School here in Gilbert at Higley Unified. As I said, I began my career in journalism and sales. I was applying to law school and began substitute teaching. A teacher had quit, so there was a vacancy, and after a few weeks, it was brought to my attention that with my career background, I could get certified. So I took a streamlined process to do so, and I've enjoyed it ever since. And I do believe that the STEM field is an incredibly important field, and we need to make sure that we have dedicated teachers that are preparing these students for the future because, that's the future of Arizona is youth and technology, and STEM is super important.
Thank you. Mr. Saka, what is your position on the Prop 301 renewal?
For those of you, make sure that, because we have a number of propositions out there. So Prop 301 is the sales tax that was passed 16 years ago, and the legislature voted to renew for an additional 20 years in this most recent legislative session. I supported that renewal. It will provide $20 billion, that's billion with a B, to education over the 20 years that it is in place. And both of the individuals that I'm running against voted against it in this most recent legislative session.
Thank you. Mr. Rothans, what is your position on the federal immigration crisis and the government's actions when it comes to taking children away from their parents? And what about Arizona's participation and cooperation in these actions?
All three at once, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I think taking the children away from their parents is wrong, and I haven't talked to too many people that think it's right. I had two really staunch Republicans get on me yesterday about that whole thing, and we eventually agreed that the taking away of the children is not right. That's not. It only creates a situation now, but it's the far-reaching. I can't imagine my children being taken away from me when they were 2 years old and taken to another state, and 2 or 3 or 4 months later you reunite with them. What is the trauma that's happened to them in that time? It's never going to be erased. I don't claim to have the answer to everything, but I think that is wrong, and there's something that I'm not sure what we can do about it right now, but it needs to be looked into in a whole lot different way than it is. That's the first part. What was the second part?
Thank you. For Ms. Robinson, what do you see as a state representative's or senator's primary job when voted into office?
Thank you. A representative's primary job is to pass legislation that will support their community, to vote based on the will of the people in that community. When the opportunity presents itself, I think that they should take it to work across party lines when common ground exists. As a matter of fact, they should seek common ground whenever possible, because it's not going to be an all-Democrat House of Representatives. I wish, but the reality is that's not what's going to happen. And so we have to find common ground with one another, and we have to be willing to work with one another, and we have to do the will of the people ultimately. We can vote our conscience, but if we vote our conscience and it is against the will of the people, we have to have the backbone to stand straight and to look at the voters in the eye and to tell them why we voted the way we voted, and understand that that means we may not get voted next time because we're not doing their will. And so long as we can live with that, I think that's acceptable. But we must find ways to work across the aisle and find common ground whenever necessary, and to make sure that we are delivering on our promises, our campaign promises. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bisaccia, what do you think about amending the state constitution so that state representatives are elected for 3-year terms instead of the constant need to politic and raise money and spend more time to address the needs of their constituents?
I think that's a great idea. I've actually never considered that at the state level. I've heard some folks talk about that for the House of Representatives, changing their terms from 2 years to 4 terms. Obviously, that'd be quite difficult because that's embedded in our Constitution at the federal level. But I think that's a brilliant idea, and I would completely support something like that, absolutely.
Thank you. Mr. Saka, what are your thoughts on banning single-use plastics such as straws, bags, etc.?
So I believe in limited and local government. So if the town of Bisbee wants to ban plastic bags, the town of Bisbee should be allowed to ban plastic bags. And if the people of Bisbee don't like that, they should vote out their town council and vote somebody in who changes that. If the town of Gilbert decides they want everybody to have single-use straws, they should be allowed to do that, and the people of Gilbert then should be able to decide who they elect to town council and decide to change that if they want. And the legislature should not be interfering in those limited and local decisions.
Thank you. Mr. Rothans, how would you attempt to address the issue of doctor shortages as an elected official?
Say it again, please.
How would you attempt to address the issue of doctor shortages as an elected official?
Doctor shortages?
Mhm.
Doctors have a tremendous debt by the time they get out of school, and they're going to go where they can make money. And rural areas, I grew up in a rural area that didn't have a doctor. The closest doctor was 30 miles away. And the reason we didn't have one in our town was we couldn't give him enough business to support him. If in fact we're going to have areas that need a doctor, it might be entirely possible that the doctor should be subsidized by the state to stay in that spot, that he can afford to maintain his student loan amortization and still provide for his family. If we have an area that needs a doctor, the state should step in and say, you know, we'll give you another, I don't know, I won't even put a figure on it. I don't know doctors' money, but they need to make a living and they need to amortize their debt.
Thank you. Ms. Robinson, what is your position on gun control?
Thank you. So there's a saying that the children shall lead them. And I think that when it comes to gun control, the children has led us. When we look at March for Our Lives, just the spirit, the energy, the determination of our youth is astounding. They are telling us that they are dying. They are the ones who are dying when they go to school. We need to listen to them. We need to find ways so that we can make our communities safer. And I am absolutely in favor of comprehensive gun reform. I want us to have background checks, waiting periods, and we need to do everything that we can to keep guns out of the hands of those who have been found to be dangerous felons and domestic violence abusers. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Saka, I'm sorry, Mr. Bisaccia, what is your position on climate change?
Well, climate change is real. I mean, that goes without saying. I think to deny climate change is to deny science. So, I mean, we have to first start establishing what the facts are in this country. And the facts are that climate change is real, and it's being caused primarily by human beings. Okay? So that's step one. The next step, we need to stop the corruption in this country and at the state level so we can actually pass comprehensive legislation that's going to protect our environment so we have clean air to breathe and clean water to drink, and we have natural resources for future generations. I support public lands, and I'm proud to have earned an endorsement from the Sierra Club Grand Canyon chapter. I'm an environmentalist, and I am proud to stand on the right side of history.
Thank you. Mr. Saka, to follow up from your previous answer, would you take measures to do away with the current Arizona law that prevents local governments from banning single-use items or the like?
I would. I don't. One of the things when I talk to people is I talk about the legislature needs to focus on the biggest issues that we face in education, in healthcare, and water. And so I don't believe undoing the single-use plastic law is the most important thing in front of the state legislature in the next session. So I would try to focus on those most important things. But absolutely, it's a law that doesn't have a place and simply usurps local control. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rothans, what is your position on requiring police officers to wear body cameras?
We have seen with a number of things in television, the Rodney King case for one, that when you show one side of edited tape, you can make things appear one way, but if you see the whole thing, you can make it see another. I don't think that there's a one-fits-all formula for this body camera issue. A number of times in a struggle, we've seen where police officers' cameras can fall off, and they're stepped on, whatever, and the assailant will say, that this was done to keep them from seeing me being hit, and the police officer has a different side. I don't know that helps or takes away from the situation. I would be neutral on that issue.
Thank you. Ms. Robinson, regarding higher education, what do you think the legislature should do to address college affordability?
Thank you. Again, all roads lead back to education. The economy and education work in tandem. If we want a strong, robust working class and we want to attract corporations here to stimulate and grow the economy, we have to invest in higher education the same way we invest in K through 12. And so I believe that we need to fund higher education. We have not been doing our job in doing so. We've been leaving higher education behind. And ultimately, I feel that we have to do whatever it takes to fund higher education. We have to reduce tuition cost when possible. We have to look for avenues and ways to encourage people that are educated to stay here in Arizona and not look for jobs out of state by giving teachers the salaries that they deserve, looking for ways to reduce, to cut costs in terms of student loans, and to give incentives for the workforce to stay here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bisaccia, how have your life experiences prepared you for working in the legislative process?
That's a great question. I'm 27 years old and I've had almost as many careers at this point. No, I'm only half kidding. I was a TV news reporter. I covered the 2016 Iowa caucuses. I've met probably about 50 members of Congress, over 10 governors. I've been involved in the political process in this country since I was about 20 years old now. So I have a pretty good sense about how this kind of thing works. And now particularly having a background in software sales and now working in education in the STEM field, I believe that particularly my work with children and my work in technology makes me uniquely qualified to be able to be very effective in the legislature. Thank you.
Thank you. One moment. Mr. Saka, are you in support of, what is your position on the Equal Rights Amendment?
It's not one I had thought about recently. So I stated earlier when we were talking about LGBT rights, I believe every individual has equal worth and value and has and has rights and responsibilities for equality under all of our laws. So I support actions which increase equality in our country.
Thank you. And Mr. Rothans, how has Arizona's immigration policy affected the state's ability to attract new businesses or tourism?
Well, I think 1070 set the bad tone, and it's kind of gone downhill from there. Our governor was willing to send National Guard to the border, but he did say that they were not going to be involved in actual whatever it was that our current president instructed the rest of them to do. I think it's given Arizona a black eye. I don't think that people or businesses that have money to invest are saying Arizona is a good place to go because, after all, they have equal rights for everybody. I don't see that our current immigration situation is a shining example of Arizona.
Thank you. Ms. Robinson, what role should the state play in protecting our borders?
Thank you. I believe that our state has a tremendous moral obligation to lead the way because we are a border state. Sending the military to our border, I think, is a waste of resources. I think that we can look to respect immigration laws, enforce immigration laws, but do it in a manner that's humane and that respects the lives of all people. Because that's what being American is supposed to be all about. That's what makes us the shining city, the shining star, the city upon the hill that we are known for. And so what is happening right now at the border, I think, is just an outcry for human rights. It is a total violation of human rights, the way that children are being taken away from their parents, especially young infants. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bisaccia, what is your position on increasing education and vocational training in Arizona prisons to reduce recidivism?
That's a great question. I'm definitely supportive of that. And one thing we've got to do is reduce incarceration rates to begin with, so we're not in that position anyway. I believe that we have way too many people in our prison system that are nonviolent drug offenders, which is why I support the decriminalization of marijuana here at the state level. We have way too many people that are getting put in prison and are a huge burden on the state for petty drug offenses. We need to get these people back out to society and being productive members of society, because we're ruining people's lives and we're costing the state tens of millions of dollars per year. So yes, I do support vocational programs and educational programs for currently incarcerated folks, but I would like to see less people get incarcerated to begin with.
Thank you. Mr. Saka, what is your position on women's rights to choose if their life is in jeopardy or in cases of rape or incest?
So I stated earlier that I am pro-life. I do support exceptions for the life of the mother or in the cases of rape or incest.
Thank you. Mr. Rothans, what is your position on the legalization of marijuana?
I agree with Joe. We should decriminalize marijuana. We have our current judicial system. Our Attorney General determines that you're found with a seed in your car, they're going to get you for a number of charges beyond that, and you can go to trial and get 20 years in prison, or you can plead guilty to this and we'll only give you 6 months. And I think that because of the situation we have with the private prisons, that they're guaranteed occupancy, they're guaranteed a profit. The two riots that we had in Kingman a few years back were at private prisons that were undermanned, and the best way to make a profit is to underman your staff. And if you don't have to feed as many people, or you don't feed them stuff that they'll eat, you're making an even bigger profit. I think that we need to decriminalize marijuana.
Thank you. Ms. Robinson, how do you think that requiring identification at the polls is impacting? What kind of impact do you think it is having to require identification at polls?
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
What do you think is the impact of requiring identification at the polls?
Oh, okay. Thank you. I think if you require a driver's license or some form of ID just to make sure that you are who you say you are, that is acceptable. But asking voters to prove that they are U.S. citizens is basically voter suppression. And so I think that it is a way to intimidate and to keep voters from coming to the poll. And I think that we need to eliminate that. We need to look at a mail-in ballot system. in order to encourage voters to come out to vote. We need to look also into the possibility of automatically registering people to vote when they turn 18, so that we can encourage voter turnout. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bisaccia, how do you plan to work with others across the table if elected?
Well, that's a great question. You know, I consider myself to be a pretty personable guy. I was at the Gilbert Chamber of Commerce event a few weeks ago, and I struck up a conversation with Travis Grantham, Warren Peterson, J.D. Mesnard. Those are some folks where, needless to say, I have some fundamental disagreements with on basically every single issue. But with that said, I found them all to be, you know, perfectly pleasant and polite and you know, very kind individuals, and I look forward to just working across the aisle and getting to know everybody first of all, and at least generating a personal relationship. Because if you can't see each other on a personal basis, then I don't think that you can, you know, find common ground to, you know, close some of these corporate sales tax holes and other issues that, you know, conservatives say that they agree with us on. And I look forward to, you know, having a positive working relationship with everybody in the legislature.
Thank you. Mr. Saka, what do you think differentiates you from other Republican candidates, and why should voters consider you?
Sure. Thank you for the question. So first, my experience. I'm an educator, I'm a professional problem solver, and I'm a business executive. But most importantly, I think, is my willingness to go beyond the focus on narrow partisan issues and focus on what are the biggest issues that we face in Arizona, and make sure that I am applying all my time and effort and working with others to do the same, to focus on those big problems that we face. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rothans, what, if any, kinds of regulations would you recommend regarding gun purchasing and ownership?
I'm a firearms enthusiast. I'm registered with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms as a gunsmith. There are only 2,500 in the United States. I have a degree in gunsmithing. I left the gun community in 1995 because the way it was going was not a way that I wanted to be associated with. Now, my particular solution to this problem would be that in order to buy a gun, you should have to prove not only the background part, but you should prove that you know how to use it, how to clean it, take it apart, put it back together, how to load it. You should also have to have a driver's license like that, and every 3 years you have it renewed in order to buy ammunition. I think that that would cut down, not eliminate, but would cut down a number of the issues that we're having.
Thank you. Ms. Robinson, how has the increased minimum wage affected small businesses, in your perspective?
Thank you. So I support small businesses because I think that they are vital to our communities. When we increase minimum wage, small businesses have to comply. It's not an option. But we can look for other ways to help small businesses stay successful so that they do not go under as a result of minimum wage going up. That can include looking at incentives and tax benefits. If it will not hurt our community, if it will not hurt the people in our community, we can look for ways to help them so that they do not fall under as a result of minimum wage going up. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Bisaccia, how would you propose reducing opioid abuse in our state?
That's a great question. Well, I actually think that this is a huge issue, and it actually goes into marijuana as well. I think that, first of all, we are prescribing opioids at an alarming rate, not just in this state, but in this country in general. And they're highly addictive, and they have created an enormous black market for not only opioids, but also heroin too. So this is a really complicated, multifaceted issue that we need to look at. And I think in a lot of regards, I would be much more comfortable with people using recreational marijuana or medical marijuana instead of being prescribed opioids. I mean, this is an issue that's really personal to me. My father is partially disabled, and he takes opioids every day. So I know this issue personally. And, there are far too many people that are getting hooked on this stuff, getting put away in prison, and people's lives are being ruined. So we need to show compassion and empathy, and we need to look at alternative ways of not having to prescribe these drugs in the first place.
Thank you. At this time, we will have the candidates give their closing statements, and the first will be given by Mr. Saka.
Thank you, and thank you all for taking your time to be here tonight and listen to all of us answer and hopefully inform you with our questions. I'm a professional problem solver, an experienced business executive, and an educator. I've demonstrated the ability to solve difficult problems effectively and efficiently. My opponents in the Republican primary have repeatedly chosen to focus on narrow partisan issues. And I believe in the importance of focusing on the biggest issues and finding solutions to those issues that we all face. I do believe passionately in the future of Arizona, but I believe that future is at risk unless we invest responsibly in high-quality education and high-paying jobs and excellent roads and highways. My name is Blake Saka, and I'm asking for your vote in the Republican primary on August 28th. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rothans.
My name is DJ Rothans, and that rhymes with both hands. I'm a retired union steamfitter. I've not worked for wages in 6 years. This will be my only job. I will put 100% of myself into this. I am a workhorse, not a show pony. This is substance, not fluff. I will work for you with both hands. I will do what needs to be done. I will find out the answers to the questions that I don't know the answers to, and I will look into every corner till I find a solution. Again, my name is DJ Rothans, and I'm asking for your vote in the Democratic primary. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Robinson.
Thank you. Thank you all once again. As an attorney who has worked in nonprofit, I'm committed to serving everyone in my community and not just those with the means to influence public policy. If we want fully funded education systems, we have to elect those who actually want to fund our public education system, not just give lip service because they want to be voted into office. I believe in doing just that. We can't continue to elect the same people and expect different outcomes. And I say this respectfully, but we can't elect people who have shown us that they do not support our education system. I don't think that it's going to be easy for someone who is a Republican to vote against their own party. I think it's going to be a tremendously difficult thing for them to do. I'm tired of watching the legislatures have to pull teeth in the legislature just to get our schools fully funded. And so I think that if we put Democrats in office who have already shown us that they truly support education, we can kind of get it going a lot faster and where we need it to be without having to have a lot of political discourse. I believe that the issues that influence our districts fall within the realm of the economy, education, equality for all, in our environment. And that needs to be rectified in order for our state to move forward. I believe that I am the candidate that will bridge those gaps, and I hope that you will vote for me. Together, we can bridge the gaps and move our state, our district, our country forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bisaccia.
Thank you so much. And again, thank you to the Clean Elections Commission and to Lindsay, DJ, and Blake. I think everyone at this table can attest to the fact that running for office is no easy task. So I admire all of them for doing that. I firmly believe that we need more advocates for public education and educators in the state legislature. And that's why I decided to run for office. This, to me, is an election about the future versus the past. Are the voters going to decide to continue to send the same legislators to the state capitol, supporting the same failed policies of the past, or are they going to take a chance on some folks that have a different idea and are talking to everybody, Democrat, Independent, and Republican alike, and looking forward to actually solving some of the really big crises that our state's facing? We need people that are problem solvers and people that are looking to the future, not stuck on preserving the past. I am proud to have earned endorsements from Planned Parenthood, the Sierra Club, Moms Demand Action, and the local chapter of the AFL-CIO. I am humbly asking for your vote on August 28th in the Democratic primary if you are a registered Democrat or Independent, and I look forward to moving on to the general election in November and earning your vote then again.
Thank you. To our candidates, thank you so much for participating in our forum. And to our audience members, we thank all of you who took time to come and inform yourselves before voting. We encourage you to visit www.azcleanelections.gov/voter dashboard for a customized experience to find information on the primary election, the candidates, the issues, and to view this debate on demand. Please fill out the debate evaluation form and return it to one of our volunteers. Your feedback is important to the Commission and will help improve future debates. Thank you all for coming tonight, and you are welcome to stay and speak directly with the candidates. Have a great evening.